Welcome one and all, I am Bradley Overrated, bringing you another Overrated review, the most casual reviews on all of YouTube, and today's game is Resident Evil Village, a game that I played a day late and $1 short, but still want to talk about it now in 2022, so let's do this. Resident Evil Village is often described as a roller coaster or an amusement park, and while many claim this is a great thing in the fact that it keeps you guessing as to what's coming next, I think they also forget the part where amusement parks don't always have the best rides and enjoyment. Resident Evil Village has both the exhilarating roller coasters as well as the disappointing teeter-totters that left me personally wishing the game had some semblance of consistency in its offerings. Following the events of Resident Evil Biohazard, you once again get to play as Ethan, but this time, instead of saving your woman, you're saving your daughter Rose. The plot itself is all over the place and immediately throws in some incredulous moments right at the beginning of the game, spoiler free here, and it feels out of place until you get to the end of the game. Now I'm not saying the plot is terrible or anything, and the voice acting is quite good, but I am going to say that there were a few moments that made me shake my head. Resident Evil Village can be broken down into 5 acts, and the first 2 were by far the best and my favorite. Act 2 was especially impactful, as it ramped up the horror meter to a blistering 10, which included one of the most interesting boss fights I've encountered in any Resident Evil game I've played so far. Act 1 felt like a nice nod and tribute to the traditional mansion, and Act 3 decided to take a dump rather than give me anything remotely worthwhile. Like I said, this game is an amusement park, but the reality is that most of the game is not that scary, which is what I personally love when playing a Resident Evil game. Most enemies in this game don't feel that threatening, especially the Lycans, and I never felt desperate for ammo because there's a fat man willing to sell you endless amounts should you ever feel the need for some. Here's the thing though. Despite my gripes with the game, I do think, objectively speaking, that Resident Evil Village is a solid game that most will enjoy. The enemy designs are great, the graphics stellar, and the soundtrack does a great job of setting the tone for each scene and area. I also think a lot of the puzzles were fun and engaging, even if they weren't the most challenging. And Act 5 arguably makes the whole thing worthwhile because it flips everything around on the player, spoiler free, and I believe most people will absolutely love what it does. I must also admit that the gunplay in the game does feel nice and great, and this game really does reward the player for exploring the village and gobbling up all of the collectibles. I think for me personally, I just wish this game was scarier than it was. I'd argue that over 60% of the game isn't all that terrifying, and that's a shame. I love the tension of running out of ammo, or having to struggle to find health, or being nervous even by a basic enemy, as each encounter makes you wonder whether or not to fight or conserve your ammo. But Resident Evil Village is not that type of game. It encourages you to explore, fight, and explore some more. And for most, that's not a bad thing. At the end of the day, Resident Evil Village was just okay for me. There are things I wish the game did differently that were more suited to my personal taste, but my personal feelings aside, I think it's a solid game that most will enjoy. I wish it was scarier, and I wish the different acts, as I call them, were better constructed. But on an overall scale, the game does a lot of things well, and is definitely a crowd pleaser, so I'm giving Resident Evil Village for the PlayStation 5 a B. I think this game is a good game. I'm not here to knock it by any means, and this is one of those interesting things when you're a reviewer. This is called trying to be objective and set your personal feelings aside. Because while, like I said, I think this game was kind of more mediocre for me personally in terms of what I was hoping it would be. It was just okay, it didn't live up to the expectations. I can sit back and see why a lot of people would like this game, and I do think a lot of people will enjoy this game immensely. So, take it as you will, guys, and this concludes my Overrated review. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this silly little video. I am Bradley Overrated, out like a trout, and I'll see you guys on the next one.